Hello and welcome to the IT Chronicles. We're coming to you from the Gartner Data Center show in Las Vegas. I'm Kirstie Magowan. I'm here with my co-host Carlos Casanova.
Hello, Kirstie.
And we have the pleasure of speaking to Nathan Bach from Driscoll's. Now, talking to someone who produces strawberries at a technology conference that's a first for us, I have to say.
Not
but
typical.
You're presenting tomorrow about the backup solution you've chosen.
Right. We partnered with a vendor a couple of years ago. They're pretty early. We were pretty early adopters of theirs, a company called Rubrik. And so tomorrow I'll be presenting and talking about their solution, why we chose it, what we looked at as a competitive landscape, and kind of how it fits in our global IT infrastructure.
So it's interesting. One of the things we've had a lot of conversations around and we're electrical engineering. We're all technology background, and the reality is it doesn't really matter. Because it's really for you in particular, it's about strawberries.
Right.
It's not about the technology itself. It's but that technology enables that. So I guess that's the big thing. And I know yesterday's keynote was about value and IT like a business and that connectivity. So I guess it's just a very different perspective that you're coming at it from, and how it's enabled you to do certain things.
Right. I mean, we are essentially a genetics company when it boils down to it, because the way that Driscoll's operates depends heavily on our proprietary varieties, right? So Driscoll's strawberries are fundamentally genetically different than anyone else's, not through GMO or any crazy business, but through traditional breeding methods. And that's what makes our berries different. That requires a lot of R&D, a lot of technology that you wouldn't think when you look at a strawberry field.
So you're a high-tech strawberry company.
Kind of. Well, what we try to do is we try to take the benefits that technology has to expedite our process, much like the auto industry did with fluid dynamics and the ability to test cars and things like that without having to build them to crash them, right? So we're able to do an awful lot of things with technology that allow us to reduce the time that it takes for us to develop new varieties and get new berries to market. So technology, in a lot of ways, is very, I would say, similar to most companies, right? There's a corporate function to what we do. There's the enterprise components of it, and then there's the things that are more unique to our business.
I think it's a really good illustration of what we try and get across with every company that we talk to, is that it is about the product at the end that the consumer gets. So the technology you use is what enables you to put really good tasting strawberries on the table for your consumers at the end of the day.
I mean, ultimately that's our goal, right? Our goal is for the consumers, the people buying and eating the berries, to have a really great experience, so much so that they go back and buy them again, right? So whatever it takes for us to deliver that is what we're working on. And as an IT organization, our job is to really kind of get out of the way of the business and enable them to do what they need to be able to do as efficiently and as quickly as possible, and essentially help move the company forward as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, technology in agriculture has grown to a huge degree lately. I mean, in another life, I'm actually an avocado grower in New Zealand as well as this. So I mean, and I know the technology that goes into producing our avocados, the spray diaries online that we use, the fact that if you find a tray of avocados in a supermarket somewhere, you can scan them and see what day they were picked and which orchard they came from. So I'm assuming it's pretty much the same for
We
you
do.
for
Any one of our clamshells of berries, you can turn over, scan that barcode, and find out where they came from. And as a berry company, it's very interesting where we're able to now grow in 20 countries around the world, and we're doing more and more, which is where the technology needs start to come in, to play, because you have to keep all of those people connected and working reliably.
I think that's something you and I have talked about a lot in the past, that every company is a technology company now.
Right. And I mean, I guess the question I would ask is, how do you internally? There's got to be a struggle, from we are a berry company. But I need revenues for and budget for to run the technology.
Sure.
So how much of a dynamic? That's where I kind of see the challenge might be difficult.
IT, I think agriculture tends to move a little slower in some ways and not in others. The role of IT is, I would say, over the past 5 years, really started to kind of come into its own at Driscoll's, where the value and the need for working together with the business is becoming a lot more apparent. Senior management and leadership is really starting to get that message and really understand the value there. So it's becoming, I think, less of a restrictive environment than maybe it was in the past. We also are growing tremendously over the past 20 years. We've doubled every 5 years, which leads that's a whole nother set of growing pains.
Can't do it
right?
with 20 people in an
and
orchard.
And you can't use the technology that you used 10 years ago that worked, that doesn't work now at the scale we're at. So there's a lot of, I would say, kind of cooperative growing pains that we're working through.
Yeah. So just what scale is Driscoll's? How big an organisation are you?
Gartner loves numbers,
Yeah.
and so
So you came prepared.
we're sort of. We're a private company, right? So not a lot of our stuff is public, but I will say that our gross global sales this last year was $3.5 billion, and it's a lot more than
berries. That's a lot of berries.
Lot of berries. But that's globally, and
Sure.
I would say I think the number is something like 80 cents on the dollar that we bring in through that revenue stream actually goes to our growers. So Driscoll's is the brand, we're the delivery mechanism, we're the way that the berries get developed and distributed, but we're very dependent on our growers, and our relationship with them is one of the biggest and best parts of working there, is that it's still a very great culture, and they're very much a part of what we do. So our technology ventures that we do are to try to bridge that gap, make it easier for them to be growers and partners with us, as well as help everyone, make a decent profit. Demand is always very high for what we have, so that's always good. But we do have to try to meet that in a sustainable way and make the technology decisions that support that.
Right. So by saying that, that's one thing I started, and I live in Rhode Island, so we have a lot of the cranberry bogs and whatnot. So is this something where it is all independent growers, or is it a combination of?
It's primarily independent growers. It varies a little bit in different geographies around the world.
Sure.
In the US and Mexico, it's almost completely independent growers that we work with, and so we provide them the plants or the varieties that they're going to grow, and then we buy them back from them through a contract. And different areas like our Australia and New Zealand is I think it's a 50% ownership co-op kind of a model. And so there's some different models that we use around the world, and different berries grow better in different places, right? So that's where those genetics come into play.
And I guess I would assume that the technology plays a big role in those relationships, making sure there's communications and your your ability to share them across regions, across the world, what you're learning from one to the other.
I would say one of our larger technology challenges that we have is on the network side, where if you think of where food grows well, that's not typically where
the best technology
all of the fiber runs go, right?
Yeah.
So we end up in these very kind of remote regions out in the middle of nowhere that we have to figure out how to get services in and out. So we use kind of all sorts of combinations of things to do that. And then, centralize our IT as much as possible in geographies that we do have those services. So we have, we're in the Bay Area for the most part, so our primary data centers are in the San Jose area, and then we have others in other regions. And it's really a matter of finding ways to deliver solutions that work over that kind of a connection, right? So you have to find things that, what you can centralize, what needs to be local, and for the most part, we don't have a ton of IT requirements in those areas, right? They need to be able to do a certain amount of things. They don't necessarily have to be able to run a server farm there.
Yeah, right.
We'll do that somewhere else.
Different kind of farms.
Right.
It's been great talking to you this afternoon.
Likewise.
I think it's been a refreshing
it's refreshing.
change.
No more hyper-converged berries and that sort of
I
thing.
actually feel like
berries as a
strawberries
service.
now.
Could you do berries as a service?
Yeah, we do.
We could do a bowl of strawberries now.
That would
work.
That would be good. Well,
I'll set it up.
thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Nathan.
All right.